So thank you for waking up and shining on with us tonight for the fourth webinar of Project Bermuda Life's week of webinars. I am Shantastic Shine, and my webinar tonight is on using crystals with Reiki. So just a little bit about myself real quick. I am a Reiki practitioner, a crystal therapist, and an intuitive counselor. I use a variety of crystals and crystal tools in my daily life, and I'm also currently working on Shine Synergy crystal energy jewelry, which will be updated and available very soon and is currently available on shantasticshine.com. So please feel free to tweet me throughout the webinar or tweet Project Bermuda Life, and both of our handles and hashtags are currently on the screen. So again, thanks for joining us. I am so glad that you all are here with me tonight. And we've just been working really hard to create these webinars and to bring you all of this useful information as a team. And I'm so honored to have such an awesome team with me. In case you missed it, there were 3 previous webinars. We started out the week with Jody, who did the introductory to Reiki webinar, which you can find on the website, projectbermudalife.com. On Tuesday, we had Ashton Robertson do expanding your consciousness, and he went through a variety of awesome topics that you can also find on the website. And last night we had CeeLo, who did a webinar on connecting with Creator. So we've had an awesome week. We hope that you've had a chance to catch all of them, and if not, you do still have the chance to go check them out. And part of the reason we are doing these webinars are to really just share the information, but we're also working on creating a physical school for Project Bermuda Life. So any donations are welcome. There is a donation button on the classroom on projectbermudalife.com, or you can contact us at Project Bermuda Life to let us know that you would like to donate to getting this school really moving, and we would be grateful for any of that. So thank you, and we're going to go ahead and dive right in. So if you have any crystals that you would like to grab, go ahead and grab those, and we'll start. The first thing I would like to share with all of you is some books where I got a lot of my information and learning. So you will see that I have Crystal Prescriptions, Crystal Healing, and the Crystal Bible. And those are 3 books that I take with me to most of my healing sessions and most places that I travel, just because they come in handy for a lot of situations. So if you find useful information in this webinar, go ahead and check out those books, because they are all very good recommended reading. So I really do have to start out this webinar with, I'm not a doctor and I cannot give out medical advice. Crystals and energy healing should be used to complement any other therapies and not as a replacement for medical care in extreme situations. So information that I'm going to be sharing with you is all stuff that I've been taught through books and personal research and just experience. I've used crystals a lot with my family, and I was actually raised by my aunts and uncles who used a lot of crystal healing and aromatherapy and other awesome things. So these have been very useful in my time. So we're going to go ahead and talk about why it's important to look after our energy systems. We must remember that our energy systems are alive and intelligent. They know exactly what they need for perfect health and vibrant energy. So when your energy systems get disrupted or blocked or damaged or anything like that, it really sends a message to something in your body that says, hey, something is wrong here. And you start to begin to experience imbalances and blockages on a physical level. So if you're holding something in, for example, and you're not telling somebody something, you may seem to feel pain in your throat or this fuzziness, or even lose your voice. And that's manifesting the fact that you're not sharing something on a physical level, and then it's harming you. Many of us are trained to look at the physical body and address its need rather than to look at your energetic systems or inner workings that could be causing these aches and pains. Holistic healers use the tools that work beyond the physical, and crystals are one of those big tools because they work on an energetic level rather than a chemical level. So I'm a holistic healer, and a lot of people ask me what that means. The word holistic comes from the word whole, because the therapist treats the whole person, not just the part which is hurting or damaged or causing a problem. Doctors have this tendency to just try to cure things and not look for the deeper meaning of why this pain is coming. If a patient presents on any given appointment some sort of symptom, it usually doesn't go any further than this hurts. The doctor wants to figure out what they can do to fix it, but not why it happened. Holistic healers like to go to the deep-rooted meaning. On the very first visit to any kind of holistic therapist, you may have this awakening experience, as the healer will then want to examine you in a different way than most doctors will, asking you a lot of questions about your lifestyle and paying close attention to what you have to say rather than just trying to cure you and get you out the door. It can be a very emotional experience. Know that you don't have to share anything with a holistic healer that you don't wish to share, but often even the littlest details could help find what is causing these pains. Remember that if your energy is out of balance, that you can experience all sorts of problems. You can have bad health, lack of well-being, tiredness, depression, stress, low self-esteem, so much more. It's just a lot to cope with in our daily life. It's more than just not feeling good. It's really tearing you apart. Physical, mental, and emotional problems are often the result of blocked energy in the body. So energy healers are a form of holistic healer. Like a cardiologist examines the heart, an energy worker examines your energy. It's someone who works with balancing the field of your energy that surrounds the human or animal body. And this energy field is called different things by different traditions, such as the auric body, chi, chakras, or simply energy body. For an energy healer, the name isn't nearly as important as the effects of working with it. So know that many different people could call the same energetic body different names. And sometimes you might have to ask them to clear up what they're talking about, and that's okay. Our energy fields are just very intimately connected to our overall well-being. So energy healing is an integral part of any holistic healing plan. An energy healer is someone who works with balancing the field of energy that surrounds the human body. And the energy field really just can expand out. So a little bit more in detail, energy healers work in different ways. Depending on the system they work with, it really can vary on the healer, but the basics are as follows. You want to unblock the energy, you want to reroute the problem outside of their auric field, and you want to charge it with light and get rid of the negativity in all ways possible. So some of the different types of energy healing are aura cleansing, which can be done using crystals or simply using one's hands. The purpose then is to remove any dark energies within the auric field and infuse the aura with light or rebalance or shape it. Chakra healing goes right to the core of your energy body by clearing out blocks and opening the channel that connects your 7 chakra centers. And this can be done in a variety of ways too. And it works nicely with things like crystals, which we're going to talk to in just a moment, because I know that's what y'all came for. So the chakras, there's 7 of them that go up your body. And if you didn't get to watch the webinar with Jody, you definitely want to check it out, because she talks about the different chakra systems and how they work. We'll talk about them a little bit more a little bit later. So some more types of energy healing are crystal healing, of course, which is why we're here. And it uses stones to help balance and heal your energy in your physical body. And then Reiki, which was discovered or received back in 1922 by a Buddhist, he uses this energy to pass energy through the systems and to pull out the negativity and just work directly with the energy body. And there's many other types of energy healing depending on your religion or your location, or you may even just call one of these forms something different. So that's okay. A little bit more on Reiki is it's an amazingly simple technique to learn. The ability to use Reiki is not taught in the usual sense, but it's transferred from the student during a Reiki, or from the teacher to the student during a Reiki class or attunement. And it's not dependent on one's intellectual capacity or spiritual development. And it's available to anyone. And once you have it turned on, you can't really turn it off. So it's a useful tool that you'll just have for life. It's not really related to religion, and you just go through a series of learning experiences through your attunement that really help you use Reiki on a more deep level. And once again, just check out the Reiki introduction webinar by Jody, who is actually one of my Reiki masters who attuned me to my Reiki 1. And she is offering that service right now, that after you watch the Intro to Reiki webinar, you have a chance to sign up to get your attunement one-on-one with her online by just contacting her and setting that up. So definitely check that out, watch the video, get a hold of Jody. She's awesome, and it'll be an experience that you will just cherish for the rest of your life. It'll be awesome. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about crystals and how they're used in Reiki sessions. As you can see in the picture, you just kind of have to lay them around the client or patient that's using the crystals, or you can lay them on top of them. Often I lay them beside, because if the person moves a little bit, they fall off, and they get the same effect being next to them. So let's talk about crystal therapy real quick. What is crystal therapy? A lot of times people ask me, and it's really just an alternative medical technique in which crystals or other stones are used to help aid in the curing or helping cure of a specific disease or pain. And like I said when I started, I'm not a doctor, so you can't take this as medical advice, but they do help. And what I tell a lot of people is you have to try it to understand how it works to a deeper level. Even if it's just a matter of it comforts you to have that, almost like a worry stone or a lucky charm. It's good to just try out crystal therapy. Different techniques are to just put energy into it or give them an intention, which we'll talk about giving crystals an intention and activating them later. But basically, it's the art of laying stones in coordination with the body and its energy field, and just opening pathways that are known as the chakras and the meridians and all that fun energy healing stuff. So how do crystals work? They're currently considered a pseudoscience, but they've been used since ancient times, as far back as scientists can go, and evidence supports the effectiveness of crystals through just experience. They've been used as talisman, and they've also just been used for their beauty, and the fact that they bring peace and relaxation and harmony really seems to be something that has been shared among the generations. And they're good at giving support in times of fear, or if you lack confidence, if you have anxiety, trauma, and just other crazy situations. So crystals can just be friends, and that's okay. You can see your crystals as real people almost. They have an entity of their own. They have their own energy vibration, and they can help you as long as you believe in them. They have powerful effects on different energy vibrations in different human beings. So one crystal may not affect you the same way it affects someone else. That's something else that you kind of have to play with. And if you're using crystals with your Reiki or your healing, be prepared for some clients to react different to certain crystals. And it may be important to add that into a consultation before doing the session. Ask them if they have any sensitivities to crystals. Crystal therapy is a non-invasive, relaxing, natural, and enjoyable process. Whether you believe in physical healing properties of crystals or not, the therapy itself will offer you a chance to just lie back and relax and get in touch with your body's energies so you can leave feeling refreshed, restored, and de-stressed. A perfect platform for just improving your physical health, really. So crystal therapy is based on the premise that crystals can, in a sense, communicate with the energies that are flowing around them in the body. On a microscopic level, a crystal is a network of repeating geometric patterns made up of compressed ions, atoms, and molecules. So according to crystal therapy, one of the books I have, every crystal has its own unique electromagnetic charge. And these charges or healing vibrations are supposed to interact with the body's energy centers to remove blockages and restore a healthy flow through the body and mind. So crystal therapists really, they choose the crystals carefully. They want to make sure that each crystal responds well to them and others in the best way possible, because if you're using it with a lot of different clients, you want to make sure you have really good crystals on hand. And we'll talk about how you can choose your crystals in just a little bit. And also, sometimes the color of a crystal will be chosen specifically to correspond with the chakra or the energy point or the ache or pain. Color therapy is something that I use a lot because I'm an artist, and I know that I believe in the chakras having their own color. So each chakra has its own color. That's something else you'll learn in Jody's webinar. Another reason to check it out. The root is red, and the sacral is orange. The solar plexus is yellow. The heart is green. The throat is a lighter blue. The third eye is a little bit of a darker blue, indigo, or purple. And then the crown's often either a light purple, pink, or clear. So there are crystals that correspond with each of those chakras, and we'll talk about that also. But before we get into the crystals, which I am super excited to talk more about the properties of specific crystals, I do want to talk about what happens in a crystal healing session and how you can use them with your Reiki. So instead of attempting to diagnose a physical issue that you may be suffering from, a crystal therapist will first assess the condition of your aura before selecting a number of crystals designed to help restore it. An aura is an invisible emanation that some people can see, so it's not that invisible. I sometimes can see auras. I know I've talked to many others that can see that kind of glowing color coming off a person. But to many people who don't wish to acknowledge an aura and its existence, we'll say it's an invisible thing. So our auras supposedly relate to our emotional, mental, and spiritual makeup, meaning that when we're healthy, the energy flowing through our bodies is clear and balanced. So if something in our lives happens to unbalance this, such as a pain or a mental issue, this will result in a blockage that can manifest as a physical illness. And often that's when you'll see that glow in somebody, is when they're feeling an abundance of that emotion, or their heart chakra is just overwhelmed with love. You'll see them just kind of sparkling this green light. Or if they're really excited about what they're talking about, they may sparkle sort of like a blue light. So as with most alternative therapies, you'll first be required to have the consultation, which was what I was talking about earlier, where you want to make sure that the client is okay with you using crystals in your Reiki. Some clients don't believe in crystals, and that's okay. That's their personal choice. You don't have to push it on them. Your Reiki will still be just as effective. Even if you kind of keep them in the same room, you don't have to use them on them. They'll help you if nothing else. So talk to your person that you're giving your Reiki to. Make sure that it's okay that you use crystals or you put crystals on or near them, and just follow the situation. And it's kind of intuitive when you select the appropriate crystals for a treatment, but you can also use a pendulum. And at the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you how to use a pendulum. So you'll likely be asked to sit or lay down, usually whatever the client feels most comfortable with. And the crystal therapist will then, or the Reiki healer will then just help to put you in a deep state of relaxation before beginning to place crystals on or around you. So you want to make sure that the person receiving Reiki is comfortable. You want to make sure that they're relaxed, and basically just the same way you would set up an initial Reiki session. You're just adding these tools into the mix to help soothe the pains and to just use them as a tool to activate different chakras. You can, I like to call it crystal prescriptions. You kind of have to joke with that because you can't really prescribe anybody anything crystal-wise since you're not a doctor, but it is to me like a prescription, just like the book calls it. Giving a client a little baggie of crystals to take with them is something I like to do when I do sessions, because it gives them something to focus on and to learn more about and to know why you're working with such tools. And if you really believe in them, then you want as many people to have crystals in their lives as possible. And that's something that I've been working on really strongly with my Shine Synergy jewelry. And I just want crystals to be something that's a household thing. A lot like aromatherapy and essential oils and different herbs. And I think crystals should just be one of those daily tools. So a little bit more about how they help. And crystal healing brings in the elements of nature to provide a gentle power boost to an energy healing session. Crystal healing is a non-invasive grounding technique that can bring the holistic self into the state of relaxation, and it can do wonderful things for the body, such as lowering your heart rate and lowering blood pressure and slowing your breathing rate and increasing oxygen intake, increasing your blood flow to the major muscles for less pain and aches, and reducing muscle tension and chronic pain, improving concentration, and reducing anger and frustration. So all of these things are to help set a stage for your self-healing process to begin. But you have to remember that the healing process begins with you or your client. Another side note that I wanted to add is animals love Reiki and crystals. Just be careful they don't chew or choke on the crystals. As you can see, I have this cute little picture of a dog, and he's got crystals laying on him, and he's had a rough day. Maybe he ate something he shouldn't, or he's just been tuckered out. So his owner just put some crystals on him, and he's just taking a snooze. And I bet when he wakes up, he's going to be super energized and really happy. So earlier, I was talking about the chakras, and I said that there were different stones for each chakra. And there are more stones than just this, and some of the stones can be interchanged for different chakras. Often I like to use stones that coordinate with the colors of the chakras, because that seems the most beneficial when I work with them. Maybe because I believe in color therapy as well as energy healing. So it's something that I like to incorporate. Some of the stones for the root chakra are stones such as red jasper, if you want to stick with the color red, or hematite, smoky quartz, obsidian, onyx. A lot of those different crystals are good for grounding. And then we move on to the sacral chakra, which is orange. So carnelian is my go-to stone. You can also use copper, moonstone, or orange calcite. For the solar plexus, yellow is the color, so I go with citrine. I really love citrine so much that we're going to talk about it here in the next slide or two. So stay tuned for that, because citrine is an awesome crystal that I think everybody should have. There's also yellow jasper, ametrine, amber, and tiger's eye that can be used for the solar plexus. And that's just for like confidence and creativity and stuff like that. So then you have the heart chakra, which color is green. And I'm sorry that it's not showing green on my screen. It was green before. So my go-to stone for that is usually aventurine or jade, which actually isn't on the list either, but it's totally a good heart chakra stone. Other stones for the heart chakra are malachite, rose quartz, garnet, and ruby. Moving on up to the throat chakra, the color is light blue. So blue lace agate is a good stone for that, as well as turquoise, kyanite, aquamarine, or azurite. And that's good for when you have to talk. I actually have a nice big piece of lapis here, which is blue, and blue lace agate for my throat chakra. The third eye chakra is moonstone or lapis. Lapis is probably my go-to for third eye, if not amethyst, which is actually purple. And moldavite is another good third eye stone. For the crown chakra, you have rose quartz, which can also be used for the heart, amethyst, which can also be used for the third eye, and then lepidolite, angelite, and quartz are also good crown chakra crystals. And as you can see from the little diagram there, there's a guy, and he's laying down with his crystals, and he's got them laying on him, and he's just kind of supercharging his crystals and his chakras all at the same time. So it's an awesome example of how you can just lay your crystals on your body and the different chakras and match their color up to help activate them and really get yourself in a attuned state. So we are hitting about the halfway point. I have a lot of useful information still coming up. And I just want to let you know that if you're watching this and you're live, join us over at Project Bring Me to Life. And you can join the live chat room and ask questions. And I will be answering some questions at the end of the webinar. And also there is a place for donations. And I will also be offering a downloadable crystal chart and information sheet. So if you want to receive that, there is a form below that you can fill out, and I will send you a copy of that. But we're going to go ahead and continue. If we have questions, I will check the chat here in just a few moments. And we're going to talk about some actual crystals now, because that's my favorite part of this webinar, is talking about crystals and their properties. So one of my favorite crystals is selenite, because it's a stone of mental clarity, and this clarity enhances mental flexibility and enables strong decision-making abilities. It can affect everyday life, as full mental clarity can play into daily life and confusion and disorientation, and it's also a stone of truth and honesty, and it promotes good business practice as well as just honesty in all relationships. Selenite's also something I like to call a power crystal, and a power crystal is a crystal that does not only not need charged, but it helps charge other crystals. So if you are in a pinch and you just need your crystals to be supercharged and you don't have another way to charge them, like the full moon isn't coming up, or you don't have a candle, or any of the other different methods we're going to talk about here in just a few moments, you can put it with selenite. I like to keep a piece of selenite in my crystal healing bag at all times because it's always charging my crystals. The only thing about selenite is you do not want it to get wet and stay wet, because it will kind of fall apart, it'll chip off of each other, and it is an easily breakable stone. So be careful with it. It's powerful yet fragile. My next favorite stone that I want to talk about is amethyst. And it's a violet purple colored quartz. It has many uses, and it's just good to have in your collection. It's another crystal that I think everybody should have. It can assist with the spiritual development and transmutation of lower consciousness. It can help put you in a higher vibration. It's got purifying energy that just really helps with your crown chakra, your third eye chakra. It's also known for astral projection and taking you on spiritual journeys. So amethyst is just a crystal that I recommend everybody. Something I don't recommend with amethyst is leaving it out in the sun for long periods of time, because if it's a deep purple color, it will begin to fade. I had some really nice amethyst clusters, and I left them outside for a full moon, and I left them out there for 3 days because of the 3-day cycle that I wanted them to be there. But I also left them out in the sunlight for those 3 days, and their color started to fade. Now they still feel as powerful as they were before. They're still beautiful crystals, but their deep purple color is now a very light purple color, so be careful with that. That may also be because amethyst, when it's heated, turns into citrine, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But before we talk about citrine, we're going to talk about clear quartz, because clear quartz is awesome. It's just an overall healing stone, and it can come in different colors like amethyst and citrine, but it's probably what most people think of when they talk about the word quartz or crystals, because clear quartz, though it's easy to find, it's actually super powerful, and most people who get interested in crystals have a quartz of some kind. Mainly because it has a number of properties, and it can act as a transmitter and intensifies all of their thought forms and energies around it. And it's a wonderful healing and balancing stone, and it's great to use during meditation, and it resonates with all the chakras and can help clear out any and all negative or stuck energy. One thing that's important to remember about clear quartz is it intensifies things. So, one second, I need a drink here. So the thing about quartz is it can intensify everything. If you keep it in your pocket and you're having a bad day, it could intensify that bad day. But if you're having a great day, you want that quartz crystal because it can intensify a great day. It's a good thing to remember about quartz. Rose quartz, which is obviously another form of quartz. It's light pink or rose colored, and it's not only beautiful, but it's very spiritually uplifting. It has some special properties related to love and the heart chakra, and it's often the stone most people come and ask me for when they're looking for some sort of relationship. Working with rose quartz can help open and heal the heart and emotions. Its higher expressions of love and compassion and empathy are enhanced with its use and just it being nearby. So there can never be too much love in the world, just like there can be never too much rose quartz. It's a nice one to keep on hand. And it's one I get asked about a lot. I think it's probably almost as common as clear quartz. Moving on to obsidian. It's an interesting darker colored crystal. It It actually is glass formed from volcanic eruptions. So even though it's black, if you hold it to the light, often you can see through it in some way. I like to use obsidian a lot for scrying, and I have this really cool obsidian crystal ball that I just got today, and I'm super excited to use it. Black stones in particular are useful for protection, and it's a good crystal for grounding, and it's also associated with the root chakra, and it's good for releasing emotions, dealing with grief. So if you're having a rough time, if you've had some darker days, obsidian might be a good stone for you. It's also a good shielding crystal, so I like to have it around. I actually keep a piece of obsidian on me at all times as well. So finally, citrine. Okay, citrine, I've been talking about it a lot this webinar, mainly because it's currently one of my favorite stones. I was looking for a big citrine cluster for a long time, and Silmon actually got me one not too long ago. So I have that nice citrine cluster, and I've recently got 2 more pieces for the house because I love it so much. It's an excellent crystal for relationships. It smooths family or group problems, but most of all, it's a manifestation stone. It can manifest things, particularly abundance. So citrine is a stone that you may want to have around if you're trying to bring in abundance, and I don't know many people who wouldn't appreciate abundance. It's a little bit harder to find natural citrine, mainly because most of the natural citrine was very cherished in ancient times, and it's been found also that you can create citrine from heated amethyst. So it's got the same properties if it comes from heated amethyst. It actually then carries amethyst properties as well. But natural citrine just has this magical energy to it that draws in abundance and just good frequency. And it's also a power crystal because it does not need regularly cleansed and charged, and can help charge other crystals. So if you happen to not be a fan of selenite, citrine is the crystal that you may wish to keep in your medicine bag to help charge your other crystals. It's also a little less fragile than selenite is. So citrine, it's one of my favorites. If you don't have it, you should go get a piece. I love it. All right, so we're moving on along. Got about 25 minutes left. I hope I'm not boring you guys. I can't see the chat because I got this fancy PowerPoint up, and I hope y'all are having blast in there. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should check out www.projectformiddlelife.com and join us in the chat room because I'm sure they're having fun. They usually do. So going back to the crystals, we're going to talk about lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli is used with other stones when parts of the body need to be purified and cleansed. It's also good for the throat chakra and the third eye chakra. And it has this high intensity, and it can open many of the chakra centers, focusing on the throat chakra and the third eye. Lapis is also good for headache relief and tension stress, and it strengthens the vocals and neck area. So on the screen now, there's this big list of all kinds of crystals. And I'm going to leave it up here while I talk just a little bit about some. There's different uses for them and different ways you can incorporate them into your healing. We're going to talk just a moment on how to cleanse and clear them. But first, I want to tell you a little bit of my background with crystal healing. So crystal healing, like I said, my family has used it a lot, and it's just had this impact in my life where there were times I was like, man, how can a crystal heal anybody? And other times I was like, without this crystal, I just don't know what's going to happen. And many of you who follow Project Bring Me to Life have heard the stories of my grandmother, and if you know me, you've probably heard some of the stories. It was a big thing on my Facebook for a while, and it was just a big life chapter for me, and crystals were a huge part of that chapter. My grandmother got very sick all of a sudden. She was totally fine, and we weren't really sure what was going on. So when she went to the hospital, at first she kept going very downhill, and we were very worried, and none of us knew what to do. So ironically, a little bit before she went to the hospital, I had talked to one of my friends who sold crystals in the crystal community, and I told them that I really just wanted some crystals. I wasn't sure why. I just felt like something was coming. This is before I knew my grandma was sick. And I just felt like I needed some of them in my life. And he was like, okay, sure. Give me a budget and I will teach you about some of these crystals and I'll get you a nice little kit going. Well, the day I got the call that my grandma was going into the hospital, I happened to have a package in the mail. Something said, hey, stop at your mailbox, grab this mail before you go to the hospital. And in that box was all the crystals that my friend had sent me. I hadn't known why I needed them, but I knew that I needed them. And it was important to me. So I had ordered them and they came directly on that day. And on that day, I knew that those crystals were going to help me throughout this process. And many of the times I took crystals in and the nurses kind of looked at me like I was crazy, and sometimes I thought I was too, but it was important for me to try it. And I would lay specific crystals on specific parts of her body, and the next day those parts would be better, though another part may be in pain. I felt like they were having some impact. Well, there was some time when she just progressively started getting better and then worse, and it was a roller coaster. And often when I wasn't there to move the crystals around or to set up the grids, or like put her in a new room that I didn't have a chance to cleanse or put crystals in, was when things would just start to get a little shaky. In that set of crystals that I was given, there was a malachite heart. And the malachite heart was my favorite piece of all. I really liked the color green. I'd heard it was a power crystal. I wanted to have it in my medicine bag for a long time. But there was something special about that heart. When I walked into the ER room, I handed that one to her first. It was the very first crystal I'd handed her during the whole situation. And she just instantly put it to her heart, and she just held it there. And she went from crying and being scared to calm and breathing normally. My aunt just looked at me like, what kind of magic are you doing there? She's been really upset for like an hour, and she just was really shocked. So that heart played a big role throughout the experience, and she kept it with her. Some nights, like most nights, I kept it with me, and if I needed to send her energy, I would send her energy through that crystal. And that's something I want to teach you through this story is if you have a crystal and you put an intention to it, you can send someone energy through that crystal with Reiki. And I did that with her a lot. Now, the story doesn't have the brightest ending, not because of crystals, but because through other forms of energy healing, I worked with my grandma with theta and Reiki, and as well as the crystals and aromatherapy. But we gave my grandma a choice. So we have since lost my grandmother, but she made the choice, and she was able to tell my aunt when she was ready to just go to rest and to be a spirit, and she was okay with it. Many of us, we were heartbroken, yes, but to know that she had the chance was very magical. The reason I share this story, even though it's got a very sad ending, is that specific heart. I carried it with me through that entire experience, which lasted on and off for 6 months to a year. And the day that we lost my grandmother, some friends and I gathered in my kitchen, and we were just sharing some stories, and out of nowhere, the heart falls out of my hand. It's a really thick heart. I'll show it to you at the end of this webinar if I remember. And it just broke into two pieces. And I was completely shocked. I remember looking at Silo and being like, oh my gosh, my heart literally just broke. Just like it broke when I found out that my grandma had decided that she was ready to leave us. So not only did it show in the physical form, the crystal's energy specifically split. When I first put the intention into it, the intention was for it to connect my grandmother and I. So what it did was when she left this realm, the crystal's energy also split, and I was able to put a piece of that particular crystal in my grandmother's casket with her. So I can still receive messages through that crystal in some ways. I can feel that energetically. And that's a story that I feel is really important to share with crystal healing. So through that story, I hope that it helped you connect a little bit more on a personal level of how I feel crystals work. and also gave you a chance to check out some of the crystals on the screen and their uses. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and continue on real quick. We have a couple ways on how to use crystals in your life and how to smudge with them, and a lot more useful information coming. So we do have a question, and the question is Crystal Reiki more powerful than normal Reiki or crystal healing by themselves? And really, it's a good question, but crystal Reiki, it's to me, I think it's a little bit more powerful, but that's only because I really enjoy the use of hands-on tools and how to show a client or a patient or someone I'm trying to just work with physical things that they can use in their daily life when I'm not around to send them Reiki. So I enjoy being able to be like, okay, here's a little medicine bag for you. We use these crystals. Either you can find your own crystal that's like this, or this is a crystal that could help you, or something along those lines. But Reiki in general is a very powerful healer. If you firmly believe in your skill, you don't need these tools. They're not a necessity. They're just something extra that adds a little bit of spark to your healing session, and it gives them something to learn from and use in their daily life when you're not around as their healer, to send them that extra love or that extra energy, and it helps bring energy into their world. So it may not be more powerful. I think they're pretty equal, but just personally, it helps me. Another question that I see is, do the right crystals come to me, or do I go out and purchase them? And kind of like the story I just shared, they often come to me even if I purchase them. The specific crystals, I when you purchase them online especially, you never really know what you're going to get. So I just put out into the universe that I really need the perfect crystals for my healing purposes, more so than just the fact that they're beautiful things to have in my collection. I often am gifted crystals, and if there's one I specifically know that I need, I'll tell the universe to kind of put it in my path, so that I can find it. Like I've been looking, when I was looking for Malachite, the Malachite heart appeared, and the citrine cluster kind of appeared, and Seal was able to get it for me, and just kind of put out that calling, and I know the right crystal will come. And in a couple slides, I talk about how you can choose a crystal if you're having a problem with it. So I hope that answers your question, Carly. How to answer or use crystals in your daily life. I really want to stress that everyone's different, and how you feel most comfortable using your crystals may be different than how your best friend does. So what I've really learned is there's no right or wrong way, and it's important to try it out and to try different methods. You can hold them, lay on them, sleep with them, keep them in your pocket, wear them, do what feels best for you. It's your intuition and higher self guiding you, and you don't have to follow other people's rules with crystal therapy. As long as you're not swallowing them to the way they could hurt you, or you're not pushing them onto somebody else. It's a learning process. Share them with people. If they really seem turned off by it, you don't have to push it on them. Just learn the best way for you. So there are some different styles or forms of crystals that they come in, and some of them are easier to find than others, and some of them are bigger than others, some of them are really small, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. So we're going to start out with raw or natural stones versus tumbled and polished stones. I got this picture of malachite. As you can see, it looks really different in its raw or natural form versus its polished form. And actually, a side note, you got to be careful working with malachite, because the raw form of malachite can be potentially hazardous. Most stones that end with the word "ite" have some sort of just something you want to be cautious about. It can be soluble, it could have copper in it, or aluminum, or just something you might want to check into. I have a whole list of potentially hazardous crystals that you don't want to put in like crystal elixirs. but are still fine to use in their tumbled or polished form. So if you're interested in that list of crystals, feel free to contact me. But a question a lot of people ask is, what's the difference between natural and polished? Tumbled or polished stones have been processed by hand or a machine, and raw or natural crystals, they have not. They're raw. They're just as you pretty much get them out of the ground. Of course, at any time a person or a machine or anything comes in contact with a crystal, it will alter the energy of it. And if you really think about it, though, as soon as the crystal is dug from the ground, then that crystal's energy is probably also altered. So there's not too much difference in their energetic forms, other than once they're tumbled and polished, if they were once hazardous, they're less likely to be hazardous. They both are effective healers and protectors, and they offer different energies just slightly, but they're both positive and effective uses for healing. My suggestion is that you just practice with it yourself and get some tumbled and some natural forms of the same stone and see which one feels the best for you. I believe it's more important to work with the crystal itself that speaks to you rather than whether it's natural or tumbled. So experiment with it, have fun, and they're just kind of cool to see in both forms. I actually have a labradorite that's natural on one side and polished on the other, and it's super cool. So we're going to talk about some pillars and wands, and what the heck does terminated mean, because I had no idea at first. So termination refers to the pointy end of a crystal, and it's only really relevant if you wish to make crystal grids or do specific healing work where you want direct energy to flow in a certain way, and often you just kind of want to point the point where you want the energy, like a magic wand. Sometimes they're even called crystal wands or crystal pillars. And when you're making crystal grids, if it's single terminated, you want the points to face whether you want energy going in or out. Now, if they're double terminated crystal points, they can absorb and amplify and emit energy from both ends at the same time, making them pretty powerful. It also makes them a great stone for cleansing and clearing and balancing the chakras. So using a double terminated crystal as a bridge between two things, or energy points, or chakras, people, places, or even spirit and matter, whatever, it can connect them by simultaneously absorbing and emitting energy in both directions. So terminated crystals are really cool. Ashton, who did our second webinar this week, he has a whole bunch of really cool terminated crystals for sale right now. So if you like some of these crystals that I have pictures of, these aren't the particular ones that he has, but he has some really cool labradorites, some fluorites, and he's getting new ones all the time. So check them out. Crystal balls. I'm actually holding a black obsidian crystal ball right now, and they're used for scrying, and they have been for thousands of years. Often people think a crystal ball is in the gypsy or the fortune teller gazing into it and giving someone their future. And along with this comes this common misconception that crystal balls have this magical power that puts pictures in them to foretell the future, when really the images that you see in a crystal ball aren't just manifesting for everybody to see. Often it's something that's within your subconscious mind, and it's kind of like a door through these thoughts that can help you just access a problem or possibly see your future, but it's not going to be something like everybody crowds around the crystal ball and sees the same thing. When using a crystal ball, it's like a translate state that disassociates you with your current consciousness and enables you to tap into your subconscious and to really see what's deep within. And you can use them when trying to heal others. I use them sometimes when I'm doing intuitive sessions, not because I want to look like the gypsy with the crystal ball, but just because I really enjoy seeing what my intuitive eye can see in them. And they're just a good tool to have. I can see why gypsies use them. They just got this like theater aspect to them, that they're supposed to be some sort of movie playing out inside them that everybody can see. And it's really, it's like just a vision that the crystal healer or owner usually sees or feels within them. They're great for therapy and self-work, and just to find out what's deep within. So crystals and jewelry. And this is something that I'm particularly close with. Like I said, I've started Shine Synergy Jewelry, which is available on shantasticshine.com. I've got at least 44 new designs coming, possibly more, because I keep getting recommendations and awesome combinations that I like to work into my catalog. So stay tuned for that catalog. You'll also have a chance to not only help me sell jewelry and get crystals out in the world, but you'll have a chance to earn free jewelry or discounts in the future, which is something I'm super excited about. Crystals and jewelry, it's been used as talisman in more for centuries. As far back as history can track, there have been crystals being used with pharaohs and kings and queens and leaders and people who are just trying to heal others, like shamans and medicine men and women and all kinds of things. Chips and beads are most often made from tumbled and polished crystals for energy jewelry. And I believe stones are just as powerful in this bead form and are a great way to keep crystals with you every day. So crystals can also be used in wire wraps, which I have a picture of a wire wrap by Pencapius Designs that I found on Facebook. And there's this huge community of wire wrappers, as they call themselves, and it's usually in like the festival or music festival scene, but they're just creating these magical pieces of art with crystals just elegantly wrapped within them, and they're beautiful. I'm so excited to see crystals being used in such a beautiful art form. I've made a couple crystal wraps myself, and it is something that I'm working on. So if you're interested, I myself or someone I know, Ashton, and a couple other people I know are also wire wrapping, Charles and Tiffany, we can find you a wire wrap. If you need a wire wrap and you prefer that versus a bracelet, let me know. All right, so finally, choosing crystals. This might help with your question earlier, Carly. Crystals sometimes choose their owner. It's a cool fun fact. Personally, I found a few rather nice crystals that I, to this day, do not know how they manifested into my collection. But I love them, and I feel an attachment to them because they appeared, and I feel like they were for me. I use them in my healing, and often people will give them to you as a gift once they realize that you are a crystal person, or I often call us crystal kids, because there's a whole nother theory on crystal kids that I can't even get into on this webinar. Check it out. But once they realize you're some sort of crystal kid, you'll often get crystals as gifts. Many crystal users enjoy gifting crystals, and these crystals are meant to be kept unless regifted. Crystals often have a way of telling their keeper if they wish to be gifted. So if you have one and you feel like it doesn't belong to you, it may be waiting for you to regift it to someone else, and you'll know at that moment. So when you're in a store and you're surrounded by these crystals and you're like, man, they're all so pretty, I don't know which one to get, but I want one. You hold it in your hand, you hold it close to your eyes and then close to your heart. Does it feel right? Sometimes it will feel warmer to you. It'll give you a jolt of energy if it wishes to stay with you, or sometimes it will just glimmer in your eye and be like, hey, hello, I love you, I want to be in your collection. Now, sometimes a crystal may jump right out of your hand. I often take this as a sign that it doesn't want to be my crystal. Others take this as a sign it does. It got so excited, it decided to jump. It's personal preference. Usually I feel like if it falls out of my hand, it doesn't want to be in my collection and it's waiting for someone else specifically. Just something that I do. You don't have to do it that way. Everybody's different. Whoa, so we're moving right along here. I've only got a couple minutes left. I'm going to try to get through the rest of my useful information. We may go slightly over an hour, which I'm shocked by because I was worried I wouldn't have enough to share with you. But we're doing it. And if you've stuck with me this long, I'm really grateful. If you've got useful information out of this webinar, remember you can always donate to our school so we can get this nice physical school going. It's going to be awesome. I'm so glad that you've joined me for this webinar. And I hope you check out all the other webinars that are happening. And we're going to continue on. And if we go over a few minutes, I'm sorry, and I hope you catch it up. And real quick, we got a question. What is scrying from Carly? So scrying is kind of like I was talking about earlier, it's a form of divination. It's not necessarily fortune telling. You're not going to look into your crystal ball and see a fortune. It's when you look into the crystal ball and you intuitively feel or see something personally. It's a good way to explain it is like when people have visions, and you can just kind of intuitively see something even though you don't fully see it there. Some people do it with tea leaves. I know there's different symbols with tea leaves, but if they look into the actual tea, they'll sometimes call it scrying. Darker stones are good for it, like obsidian. Let's see here. It's just sort of like intuitive visioning. It's also using other reflective objects. You can use a mirror sometimes, usually a darker toned mirror, not a normal mirror. I believe they even did some form of it in Harry Potter, but I might be reaching a long shot there. So we're going to keep going. I hope that somewhat answered your question, Carly. We're going to talk about cleansing and clearing your crystals before I run out of time. So cleansing your crystals frequently is very important, especially after a Reiki session. You do not want to use the same set of crystals on yourself or another client before you clear them. It's important to cleanse and clear them when you first receive them to remove any energy they may have had from a previous owner or journey. So if you have a crystal that comes from somewhere in Africa or Australia or China even, and it's put in this package and someone there may not know that it's a beautiful crystal tool, and they throw this box around, well, that doesn't necessarily make the crystals very happy. So when you get your crystals, you want to tell them that you love them, and you want to cleanse and clear them. Some different ways you can do this is by smudging, running water over them, which you do not want to use water on crystals that end with ite. So use one of the other methods for those crystals, such as selenite, labradorite, a bunch of other ones. Malachite. You can put them in a salt bath where you just have a bowl of salt and kind of bury them in it and let them sit in it for a couple hours, usually overnight. You can hold them or sit them by candlelight. You can even bury them in a burlap sack overnight, which is a way that they used to do it in older tradition. Or you can allow them to rest in a bowl of white rice. So at the very end of the webinar, which we are coming up to, I promise I'm not going to keep you guys all night, even though I'm having so much fun talking about crystals. I'll show you real quick how to cleanse or smudge a crystal with some sage, and I'm going to show you about pendulums. Charging your crystals. Charging your crystals is just as important as clearing them and setting an intention for them. To charge the crystals, it is similar to clearing them, except they retain more energy towards their unlocked intention or future use. Some ways you can charge them are with full moon. I love putting my crystals out for the full moon. Just be careful, because often full moons also mean rain. Just the way the tides work and water works. It's something that a lot of people forget, that full moons, it usually rains. Sunlight is another way to charge them up. I just don't recommend putting colored quartz in sunlight because they may fade. Told you about that earlier. It's not the best idea with amethyst. You can use other power crystals such as selenite or citrine. So either two of my favorites, you can keep them in your medicine bag and charge them up. Using candlelight, that's your quick source way to charge a crystal if you have a candle. And if you don't have a candle, you can Reiki it. There's a series of different Reiki symbols you can draw around their energy field. You can hold them and just meditate and put Reiki and love in them. Basically, you just want to try to put as much energy in them as possible, and they'll work to the greatest ability. Activating your crystals. It is important to activate or unlock your crystals. Some crystals may be considered sleepers, which means that they are awaiting a purpose to put their energy to. There are a variety of ways to activate a crystal for a specific intention. Once you receive the crystal, you will want to hold it for a few moments and state your intent and tell it what you want it to assist you with. For example, you could simply say, I ask that this crystal help me work with the energies to relieve pain in my lower side. You meditate with it, take some deep breaths with it, you love it, and you thank it, and you use it. You can sleep with it near your side, you can put it in your pocket, or however the crystal will benefit you, you'll intuitively feel that. You can also do a smudging ceremony with a little prayer or intention where you speak to the crystal and its purpose, similar to what we just mentioned. You can also do a meditation with the crystal, and sometimes while meditating, the crystal will even tell you what it wants to be used for. Like, I knew that malachite heart was meant to be a connection between me and my grandma. Some energy workers even like to use a series of hand motions to unlock their crystals or specific crystal grid layouts. So It's another thing you're going to have to play with to feel what the best way is. You can use a mixture of these methods. Sometimes I do several different intentions for the same crystal, so you can do several different methods of activating it. You can also Reiki a crystal to give it a more positive energy if needed, like we just mentioned in the charging of it. Crystals can have multiple intentions. If you need to change the intention for a crystal, or it's helped you fulfill its initial purpose, you can cleanse and clear it and reactivate it. You can also activate crystals for your friends when you're gifting them. And it helps be a tool to help connect you to them, or to help aid them in healing, or a variety of things. You can use them in your sessions and unlock them as well. A few other crystal tools, pendulums. They're those cool little crystals you see attached to usually a string or a chain, and it can move around to tell you things. I'm going to show you real quick my pendulum here in just a moment. Crystal points are, like we talked about earlier, they can use as wands, selenite sticks to charge things, and organite. Organite are these cool little things. There's a picture of one in the slideshow. It looks kind of like a pyramid or a dome. They can be made into pendants, charging plates, altarpieces. They're a combination of crystals and metals that are activated to help clear the energetic fields in its space or your body. People like to keep them near technology to keep different radiations and frequencies from harming their body. They're just really cool tools. We're working on having an organite class at Peace and Me. Friendship Enterprise has some cool organite. I know a guy named Patty who makes some awesome organite. There's a variety of places to get organite. So if you need some, you can get a hold of me for that too. Moving right along. Other crystal tools and uses: spirit water and crystal elixir. It's the name I use for water that has had crystals sitting in it or next to it for an extended period of time. Allowing a pitcher of water to soak with the crystals in it throughout the night, or even just for an hour or two before you drink it. It can help you receive internally those properties of the crystal so that you don't have to hold the crystal on you. If sometimes you don't have pockets, or you don't feel safe taking your favorite crystal out of the house, so you can create this elixir with it. Now make sure you're not using crystals that end with "ite," as we mentioned before, or lapis lazuli, and like I said, I have a whole list of other crystals that you don't want to use, but there are plenty that you can use to make these crystal elixirs. I also know Indigo Flame Gifts makes some awesome crystal elixirs, and he's also one of my other Reiki masters who attend me for my Reiki too, so check him out. His name is James. The crystals will create an energetic infusion in the water, and the structure of the water will align energetically to the vibration of the crystals. So you'll never really need to feel the need to drink coffee again if you enjoy spirit water, because it's really good to drink. I use it a lot with ceremony, and sometimes with different clients or people I'm working with, I suggest different elixirs that could help them just in their daily use. Crystal gridding can sometimes be more powerful than just using a single crystal for an intended goal, and I could do a whole nother webinar on crystal gridding. Basically, the crystals find a way to place themselves. There's a crystal grid in the photo on the slide, and you can use sacred geometry. You don't have to have anything to place them on. You can usually just sit them on the floor or a rug or an altar or wherever you can put them, and just build your grid. Let them intuitively tell you where they want to go. Crystal grids are made by the placement of those stones in those patterns, and you can activate them and use points with them and different intentions with them as well, often used in ceremony. So now that you've stayed for pretty much the whole webinar, I'm going to show you a couple more things off of the slideshow, which means you'll get to see my face now that you've listened to me for an hour. But if you would like to get your own copy to download of this information guide or the crystals and properties sheet that's on your screen, you can email me for that download. There is a form below if you're on the Project Bring Me to Life page watching this, or you can email me at shantasticshine@gmail.com using the subject "free crystal sheets 444, and I will send you the download for them. Usually I require a purchase and you get a copy of these, but I love crystals so much and I love you guys so much that I want you to have this information accessible. You can print these out and keep them in your pocket, keep them in your purse, put them on your bulletin board, hang them up at work. You'll know what crystals you need and how to take care of them. And I'm just grateful that you guys decided to hang out here. If you don't want to email me, you can also find them on shantasticshine.com, but it's harder to download them. So you guys are awesome. You've hung out with me this whole time. And if you have more information, you can check out my website full of information and different creations. So real quick, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and show you me. I'll take my glasses off so I don't glare on you guys. Now, real quick, this is a pendulum. We talked about it, and they move around. By the way, it's so glad to see you after you've heard me for so long. So when you have a pendulum, and you can use them for Reiki, and you can use them for choosing your crystals. You want to hold them. I often hold mine like this, where I'm not holding the very end, because some people say if you hold the very end, you can alter the way that it works. If you are asking a question, I often like to clear the energy of it, and it's not spinning in any specific direction right now. A good way to figure out how your pendulum works for you is ask it your name. Say, is my name Shannon? And mine starts going in a clockwise manner. Now, when you ask it, is my name Silamon? The crystal then goes in a counterclockwise manner. If the pendulum goes back and forth, it's unsure. I can't really ask it a question right now that it can be unsure about. But if it goes back and forth, that means it's not really a yes or no answer. So it's a good way to use a pendulum. Now, real quick, I've got a crystal here. We talked about smudging earlier. I got some sage. I just lit it in my throat chakra candle. That has helped me a lot through this webinar. And you just kind of wave the sage around the crystal. You can blow it around. And then that's just a really great way to help smudge and clear and cleanse your crystal. It's as simple as that. You just put love into it and you fill your crystals out. So I really hope you enjoyed this webinar. I've had a blast sharing information with all of you guys, and I'm excited to read the chat. So if you had any questions real quick, go ahead and send them by. And just furthermore, thank you all so much for helping Project Bring Me to Life grow. And if you enjoyed this, like I said, feel free to donate to us, but more importantly, just share the video. If you can't donate, that is totally understandable. A lot of us are going through rough times right now, but sharing is caring, and we appreciate it a lot. So check out the earlier webinars from this week, and check out projectbringmetolife.com, and share us with your friends. I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'm going to thank you all for deciding to wake up and shine on with us. And I hope that you have an awesome day.